Hey guys, Jay Torres here. Today we're going to be talking about WGU, Western Governors University. I have promised this video for a long time. As some of you might already know, I have been attending the university for the last 2 years and a half. It's kind of funny how I ended up going to WGU. I had heard of it while I was in high school. I'd seen the ads with the owl and it was like this guy that just kept talking about how great the university was. And it really never struck my interest, and I never looked further into the university. I just a little bit about myself. When I graduated high school, I got a full ride scholarship to the University of Rhode Island, URI, and I attended that for a summer term, which went good. And then I attended fall, and that term wasn't very good for me. I kind of lost interest in the school system, at least at URI. I thought it was just very, very dry, very boring. I thought a lot of the subjects I was learning for computer science I had already kind of touched, just either through my own learning or through some of the classes that I had done at community college during high school. So normal university, a traditional brick and mortar university, kind of just did not work out for me. And I took a break for about, let's say, like 8 or 10 months. And in that break, I decided I wanted to join the military, and I did. I enlisted in the Air Force, went through basic, tech school, and I arrived at my first duty station, Air Force Base in South Dakota. There I met some other professionals that had been in, because my job is in IT, and some of the professionals there were going to WGU, and they sold it to me. They kept talking about how great it was, specifically for military, since we have such a high chance to just go somewhere in the world at any time without notice, and your ability to keep going to this university was not hindered by that. At least in most scenarios. And in the cases that you were not able to complete some sort of coursework or a class because you had unreliable internet connection or something like that, at least from what I've heard from other people, WGU has been very good with dealing with that and making sure the students don't get in trouble or have any negative consequences from something that they can't control. But yes, traditional university did not work out for me. Some of the topics I also just disagreed with how they were being taught, and I just ended up going to the military after that. I thought I wouldn't return and try and get a degree. I was one of those people that just said you don't need a degree, you just can just learn. I mean, as you can see right here, I have a bunch of books. I've always been a reader. Since high school, of just trying to teach myself things, programming, went to a bunch of like after school programs, always had a hunger for knowledge. And at that point at URI, I just thought that I could just get that knowledge myself and not have to pay for it. Of course, I had a full ride. I wasn't paying from my own pocket, but I still thought that it was just a waste of money, even if it is like taxpayer dollars that were being wasted at that point. But anyways, go to the military, find out about how great this university is, how they offer all these certifications with the tuition, and of course, being in the military, we have tuition assistance, which covers exactly $4,500 every single fiscal year. So that with the Pell Grant, WGU is pretty much free. In some cases, in a lot of cases, the military members kind of get paid for going to university, since you do get that refund from the Pell Grant if you are overpaying with the tuition assistance. Currently, WGU, like the program that I went to was for Cybersecurity and Information Assurance. I won't be able to talk too much about other programs unless they're like IT related. But currently the tuition is $4,265 as of the making of this video, which is July 7th, 2024. Of course, that tuition cost will probably go up in the future as inflation rises, and then the university um, needs to manage how much money they need to make from this program to sustain it. But one of the greatest things from this university is that it has a competency-based learning model. I didn't know what that was in the beginning until I went through their orientation class. Essentially, in a traditional school, you'd usually have like assignments, a midterm, and a finals exam, and it's all graded through A's, like A, B, C's, like scale. And WGU doesn't use that. How they measure it is they have certain competencies, certain things that you need to meet for each class, and once you hit a satisfactory level of understanding for each of those competencies is when they officially can tell you that you have passed the class. Now there's two types of classes for WGU. There's an objective assessment class, and then there's performance tests for classes. So usually it's either or. Some of them combine them, but those assessments, whether they're performance based or they're objective based, will measure your level of understanding for each of those competencies. And if they determine that you did understand all those, that you have a good grasp of all those competencies, and that's where you pass the class, and then you can go on to your next one. The objective assessments, they're like a multiple choice exam, so maybe 60 to 80 questions regarding that topic, and as long as you answer enough questions correctly for each competency, whatever number they determine that to be, then you pass the class. The performance-based assessments are usually like a writing assessment. Some of them are like labs, so you might need to complete a lab and then write out exactly how you did it. I know for like a forensics assessment, you have to actually go and do this, grab this image for a computer and kind of go through the steps that they were teaching you on analyzing an image for forensics. But yes, you have those two types of assessments, and they're completely self-paced, right? So normally in a university, you'd have you would pay for tuition by credit hour, right? So if you're taking a class, it's 3 credit hours, and you would be paying for 3 credit hours. So let's say, and I pulled up the numbers. So this is according to the National Center for Education Statistics. From 2021 to 2022, the public credit hour dollar figure was $517. For a private university, the dollar per credit hour was $1,241. And for a private nonprofit, which is what WGU is, it came out to an average of $320 per credit hour. So we're talking $320 per credit hour. So a 3 semester hour class would cost you about what it would be $960. So for WGU, when you're taking a 3 credit hour class, you're not paying for how many credits you're taking that term. You're paying just for the term itself. So if you're a person that wants to do more than the average person of doing maybe 3 to 4 classes and doing more than that, then WGU is really good for that, because you're paying just for taking classes, whatever amount of classes you can take during a 6-month period, because it's not a regular term like universities where they're usually like 12 weeks long. This is a full 6 months from the first day of that month to the last day of the 6th month. So you have a full-blown 6 months, and you're paying $4,265 to do as many classes as you can during that period. Now, of course, like most students that go to WGU, most people have a job, they have kids, they have certain responsibilities that take a lot of their time away, And that's why WGU is such a perfect fit for them, because they can just do this content at night or whenever they can have the time to do like go through all the content and do the assessments. The other thing was the certifications. So certifications for WGU are included in the tuition. Normally for other universities, if you're taking a certification that goes along with the class, they'll make you pay for it. But WGU, they'll give you a voucher. And in a lot of cases, I believe the maximum amount of tries WGU will pay for is 2. I believe you can get 3 in some cases, but I'm not too sure on that. Thankfully, I passed every certification on the first try besides CYSA Plus. That one I actually had to retake. And I think that happened just because I got really ambitious. A lot of the times when I took these certifications, what I would do is I would schedule it before I even started studying for it. Because what happens a lot of time is you say, okay, I'm going to study for it, and then I'll schedule it. And what happens is you don't really have any real pressure to want to study for that. So as something to just kill procrastination, I would always schedule the exam dates out, probably like a month out. That way I would be pressured into studying. And of course, if I didn't feel ready for the certification, what I would do is I would just move the test date a little bit out in the future. That way I had a little bit more legroom of studying. Because of course I don't want to waste voucher money just because I'm trying to speed run through this whole thing. And I didn't really speed run. I've seen people complete this in 6 months. I don't know what those people they really have a certain type of ambition, because most people will make some excuse like, oh, those people do it in 6 months because they don't have responsibilities or they don't have kids or something like that. And that's simply not true. Like, that might be true for some cases, but I've seen some people with kids, in marriages, with full-time jobs, and still knock it out in 6 months. Of course, one of the biggest factors that I think will determine how fast you go through this is whether you already know this stuff before you even come to the university. Some people will have like 10 years of IT experience, come into the degree and completely destroy the material because they already know all this stuff. And because it's a competency-based learning model, there's no timeline that you have to wait to complete a class. You start it that day, and whenever you want to do that objective assessment or performance assessment, then you measure your competency level. And if you already know everything, then fine, you can literally pass it that same day. I had, specifically in the beginning, I can't tell you off the top of my head how many credits I did. I'm pretty sure it was like 48 or a little bit more than that. But I did 48 credits in the very first term, which is unheard of for a normal university. But because a lot of those subjects were like fundamental IT concepts that I had already learned about, and a lot of them being gen eds, which thankfully I kind of learned in high school, a lot of those classes I was able to just knock out really fast. Like, I had my full-time job in the military, and on a Friday, I just completely start like refreshing on some gen ed. Some of them were like science, so like geography and like some physics and math. And in some cases, I just get off on a Friday, study that whole night, wake up on a Saturday, take the test at like 6 in the morning, pass the class, and then study for the next class, which I thought would be easier. I mean, it would be easy since it was just a gen ed class. And then I would study that whole night and retake another test on a Sunday morning. So I would knock out like 2 classes in a weekend. Just because I was already competent at what that class was teaching. So I really appreciate WGU for how flexible they are. Even when you're scheduling the tests for the university, it's really friendly. I never had an issue with this, but almost every single time that I scheduled the test, they had an hour bracket available. So If I wanted to take it at 5 in the morning, I could take it at 5 in the morning. If I want to take it at 4 in the morning, I could take it at 4 in the morning. 12 p.m., you name it. So they were very flexible at the times that you could take it, and it's partly because they outsource a lot of it to people outside of the country, where they're just looking at you and making sure that you're not cheating, and just maintain the integrity of the test and the test materials. So there's some problems and sometimes with like communication with those people. I won't talk too much about that in this video. I really thought for honestly like the 32 classes that WGU makes you take, I only had maybe 2 to 3 issues with those people, and I think that's a pretty good ratio of successful exams versus like problematic evaluators for those exams. And just to name off some of the certifications that this degree includes for WGU, it includes A+, Network Plus, Security Plus, CYSA Plus, Pentest Plus, Project Plus, Linux Essentials, and SSCP from ISC Squared. The CCSP from ISC Squared is optional. They used to have more optional certifications, but it looked like they took out most of them, and now it's used the CCSP. And what optional means, and what all these mean really, is for you to pass a class, how you would pass the class is you wouldn't take an objective assessment from the university. Instead, what you would do is take the test for the certification. So for example, A plus consists of 2 different exams for the certification. So there were 2 different classes that required you to complete the certification. So for you to pass the first class, you would need to pass the first exam for the A+, and for the second class, you would need to complete the second exam for the A+. So essentially, the whole class is just you preparing for the certification, and once you pass it, then the score goes to WGU, and they're able to determine that you passed the class. For the optional one, though, which there's only one right now, which is the CCSP from ISC Squared, it's an optional. So what that means is you'll take an in-house assessment from the university just to measure your skills on like cloud security. And once you pass the class, then they'll give you a voucher. And that voucher, you can use it to just take it whenever you want. Of course, there's like an expiration associated with that voucher, but it's optional, meaning you don't need to pass the certification to pass the test, but they're like, here you go, you studied for a lot of the same knowledge that the certification has, so here's a voucher, and if you pass it, great. If you don't pass it, doesn't affect you at all with the university. So it's great. I pulled some of the facts from WGU, and they state that 60% of graduates finish within 29 months, which kind of aligns with me. I finished it in 30 months, so that makes sense. And of course, I didn't prioritize WGU that whole time. I still kind of tried to keep a balance between wanting to learn things on my own and then also doing the core curriculum of WGU. Ever since I joined, I was very involved with the Cybersecurity Club for WGU. So we have a club, we have a Discord, and we try and do activities. I remember in the beginning it was just me in South Dakota, kind of not a whole lot of social activity to do out there, especially in the winters. So it was really cool to be able to talk to some people that were interested in the same things. And we even had karaoke nights. I don't know if Lenny will be watching this, but Lenny would lead these karaoke nights on Fridays, and we just literally do karaoke on a Discord call. And it was super fun. And we didn't just do karaoke. It was a cybersecurity club, so of course we did like some Try Hack Me, Hack the Box, some competitions like the National Cyber League and the CCDC, and a whole bunch of other Capture the Flag competitions. It was really fun. And yeah, like I said, I took as long as I did because I was just trying to learn my own things, also learn my job in the Air Force, and life in general too gets in the way. But to be honest, for a bachelor's degree, usually you take about 4 years, and the fact that I was able to finish it in 30 months, even while doing all these other things, I think is impressive and is a testament to how awesome WGU. The other thing that I forgot to talk about, which is a massive, massive difference from a normal university, is that when you first come into WGU and you go through orientation and you start your first term, you get assigned a mentor. And if you're going to WGU or if you are in WGU right now, I really, really direct you to leverage your mentor as much as you can. Now, not every mentor is going to be great. I've heard some stories of mentors that were not the best, but in my case, my very first mentor and my second were awesome. My very first was really awesome because I don't know if they did this on purpose, but he was a veteran from the Coast Guard. And I was able to relate a lot with him with like military struggles or like day-to-day life, just being able to talk about that. And it was really awesome having like a mentor that I could relate to. And then not only could I relate to through the military side, but also through the WGU side, because he had gone through the same exact coursework that I was going through, and he was able to tell me, okay, yeah, that class, a lot of people have issues with it. Here's like some study materials, or here's like a way you can look at it differently. And yeah, and he was awesome. I'm not sure if they're still doing this, but when I came into WGU, they would make us have a weekly meeting with our mentors. Not everyone wants to talk with their mentors. Not everyone has a relationship like the one I had with my mentor. But in the beginning, you're kind of forced into communicating with them, talking to them about your struggles or your victories as well, with like passing coursework. And it helps with accountability, right? Because usually with your mentor, you create goals. So you tell them, okay, I plan to complete this class by this day. And then in a week, you'll be revisiting whether you actually met that or not. It just holds you accountable. If you were watching too much Netflix or something like that, then be able to talk with that with your mentor, and maybe they'll hold you to it, hold you to your goals and making sure you're completing them. And now that I graduated, I believe that was back in March when I graduated from WGU. I immediately went on to my master's because the military is the benefits through the military are paying for it, the tuition assistance. So I decided I'd go to Florida Tech for the Masters of Space Systems. Now, I don't want to talk too much about Florida Tech because this video is tailored towards WGU, but I will say going from undergrad to grad school, and both of the schools being completely online, I see a massive difference in just the way things are taught. Of course, the school I go to is using those normal ABC grading scales, and it measures attendance, and you gotta watch lectures and all those kind of dynamics that are regular to university. And like I said before, I don't believe that one is necessarily better than the other. They're just different ways to present things and teach things. But I will say that if you are a person who has a lot of responsibilities, especially when you have a full-time job and then you also have responsibilities in the house, like taking care of children and such, it's going to be a lot easier on you to go to WGU because you have full control over when you do things. Whereas now with my master's, I have like specific deadlines I need to do every single week, and multiple like lectures that last like a few hours, and a bunch of reading materials, and a lot of things that I don't think are necessarily going to make you a better student or better at the subject, but it's just part of that regular like brick and mortar style type of education. Yeah, I believe I covered everything I wanted to talk about. I didn't really structure this video. I just kind of wanted to go off the heart. I really appreciate WGU for the opportunity I was given to complete the degree. The I don't believe I would have been able to be as successful in any other university for my undergrad, especially being in the military and probably moving like a total of 4 times in those 3 years. So it is kind of nuts. But yes, if you guys have any questions about WGU, if you want me to make a more structured video or a video that goes deeper into a certain subject about WGU, please let me know in the comments below. Please like this video so that it reaches other people who maybe are looking into getting a degree from WGU. And subscribe because I plan to continue to keep making videos related to education, space news, and cybersecurity news. And hopefully I'll be making like some tutorials on hacking stuff as well. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.